Hey, what is up everybody? Hopefully everyone is having a very good early morning, but I'm not used to being up this early for the most part. So just as a really quick introduction, because it's kind of hard to explain this game, if you've never seen Bucky before, this is a really cool platformer. This is normal mode, so you can see Bucky has a great deal of health and can take a lot of hits. So rerun a category called hard mode. So what hard mode is Bucky dies in a single hit. So anything that can damage Bucky, it becomes the one hit KO. So this is always a little bit tricky to explain kind of like in the middle of the run, but Mr. Dino, I will say 3, 2, 1 go, and then we can start from here. So we'll say 3, 2, 1 go. So this is Bucky O'Hare. This is probably one of my favorite NES games of all time. It is one of my favorite speedruns of all time. So naturally, because it was a favorite NES game of all time, it became a favorite speedrun of all time. As I said, this is hard mode. Hard mode was actually an anti-piracy feature. So it was put into the game. And I actually learned, we have some speedrunning friends in Russia. And it's incredibly hard to talk and play this game, by the way. But we have some speedrunning friends in Russia, and they told me as a kid, if you had Bucky and one of those Nintendo Dendies, by default, it triggered anti-piracy mode. So anti-piracy mode was actually kind of like a copy protection thing back then. If you were one of those people that copied, I guess NES games to floppy disks, if anyone remembers them, it would trigger anti-piracy mode. So for all intents and purposes, this game is probably not supposed to be beaten this way, but it is actually a really cool speedrun. There is kind of one marathon unsafe spot that is a little bit scary, but as long as we get past there, we'll stay on estimate, I think. Hopefully. So in terms of development and design, I've always kind of been interested because there's a lot of screens in this game that kind of are a little bit hard casually, and it makes me wonder if the developers intentionally designed it that way with anti-piracy in mind, because some of these screens, if you're going through them, it's actually really difficult, like this next upcoming one with the lasers, to actually not die. So it does make me wonder. So we have a boss coming up. This is one of the only safe strats that I'll employ. It's possible to kill this guy in 1.5 cycles, but your mashing has to be so on point. I will take the 2.5 cycle, or the 2 cycles, sorry. I'll take the 2.5 cycle. It makes for a little bit safer marathon route, because you lose 20 seconds if you die to this guy, so it's never really fun. So, that is this guy. I do, yes. We collected the life, even though there's no point. So we rescue Blinky in the green planet. It's really weird, the design of this as well, because in the blue planet you need Blinky. Any other planet, it's not tied to a certain character. But we go green-blue for a very specific reason. In this planet there is a girl named Jenny, and she is by far arguably the best character in the game. Her DPS is 3 damage per second or something. So it's absolutely broken. She vaporizes bosses very quickly. We have Battletoad snakes here. This actually is a really weird mechanic too. You can see me, oops, shoot. You can see me duck every single time that I land on ice, and it actually cancels the ice physics. So I don't know if that was intentional, but I wish actually more games that had ice physics allowed you to cancel the ice physics, because this is a very handy mechanic. So Blue Planet is home to one of, I think, the worst screens in this entire speedrun. There is an auto-scroller that is pseudo-random coming up. Okay, Bucky, this one. So the toads spawn low, medium, and high. The problem with this iceberg is it bobs up and down, and it actually eat your jump inputs. And if you start killing the toads really slowly, depending when they spawn on screen, they become basically pseudo-random in how they spawn. So this ship in the background is on a timer, or sorry, it's on a fixed interval. It'll go left, right, destroying the blocks, and this is like the most impossible thing to talk through. So give me 1 second. This is literally, I think, like the scariest screen in the entire run. So as long as we get through here... Oh no! Bad things happened. Okay, I was gonna say as long as we get through here we're good, but you can see. Hey Mollusk. So... easily... in my opinion, if you can beat, like if you ever want to try this on hard mode yourself. If you can beat this screen, you can beat the rest of the game. Like, that's how ridiculously hard this screen is. So when you throw it in like the middle of a marathon, when you're not able to reset, and you have inputs, like the game is very good. It doesn't input, it doesn't eat your jump inputs anywhere else. It's only this screen. So when you put it in the middle of a marathon, it's always kind of like the marathon unsafe. You see, this is why we had a high estimate. But this is very much a scary screen. Was not lying. Okay. See, my jump was eaten there. Oh man, we are in trouble. This is the entire run. It's all gonna be blue. See, the problem too is I'm pretty sure after you die it becomes pseudo-random as well, so it becomes like this nightmare situation. Because the toads and how they spawn, I'm pretty sure, are different now. So it becomes extremely reactionary, which is beautiful to have this like 9th try. So please, Blue Planet, I would like to leave you. But it always made me really like watching Cypher and Garrus in particular at GDQ. Because they ran hard mode as well. Okay, I have to just not talk for a second. But they ran hard mode as well, and to get through this screen like first or second try in a marathon setting is always very cool. So give me a second here. You will just shut up. See, like this guy never pincers me. So I'm definitely in uncharted territory. No! Oh, dude, I'll take it. Luck was watching out for me. Okay, we are free. My goodness. Okay, so the rest of the run, by comparison, will go a lot better. This is easily the worst screen, as I said, in the entire game. It is absolutely a monster to do that screen. At least first try. That's where like 99% of my resets in this game are. Is the iceberg. My PB has obviously like first try iceberg, so you gotta be careful there. So I have to reset if I get 2 deaths or more. So coming up, we have a really weird boss. This boss is an alligator thing, and he has almost as much health as like the end boss. As a kid, if you've ever played this game, he is incredibly mash heavy. Luckily, after we get Jenny, we don't really have to mash anymore, so... Okay. So, yeah, that was pretty rough. So we're entering the red planet. In theory, if you're running hard mode, there's only 2 places that you want to die, which is not there. There's only 2 intentional deaths in this entire game. Everything else is literally a mistake in execution. So in red planet, there's one of those deaths. There is a death warp, and it is at the very end of the screen. In this game, it's actually kind of goofy. There's 2 auto-scrollers, and both of those auto-scrollers can be skipped by a little random bug. If you die and your body is being pushed into the screen as you're dead, you for some reason skip like the auto-scrolling section, and then you go right to the boss. So it's incredibly handy. Unfortunately, there's 3 auto-scrollers in this game, only 2 can be skipped. So this is Jenny. She's the person that we rescued from Blue Planet. She has easily the best shot in the entire game. Each character has like different little specials. We don't really use the other characters as much, but Jenny we do. On every single boss, like Jenny is a priority. As I said, her DPS is like 3 damage per second, So she can absolutely melt bosses, and you'll see that in the upcoming screen. We have a vertical scroller that's actually a little bit difficult here because these toads can unravel and just shoot you to death. Okay, that was weird. I have to wait here for a second apparently. There's gonna be a toad there, and then this toad right here is like the scariest one. See? He tried! I wasn't joking. But we're good. So coming up here is the first technically intentional death. So we want to kill this guy, and then fly across here, and then die. Ugh, too soon. Die at the same moment as we land on that boulder. So the boulder pushes us into the next screen. It skips like probably like a minute auto-scroller. So it's incredibly useful, and then it sends us right to the boss of the stage. But setting it up can be a little bit tricky. There you go. That's what it should look like. So we can use Jenny here. She has this orb. It's actually very, very, very slippery to control. And you can see, she just absolutely vaporizes the bosses, so. I see you, Bovine. Welcome on in, by the way. Okay, so we're entering the yellow planet. You can see I'll brush up against that crater, and I did it wrong because now there's going to be this extra worm thing that spawns. Usually there's 2 worms that spawn on the screen. These worms are actually pretty frame specific to manipulate and not get killed here. Usually there's 2. I did it wrong, so I spawned 3, and I'll have to jump at the end of that screen. So coming here, this is one of the cooler screens I think, because you have to like switch between all the characters that you just rescued to escape through here. And we're gonna have to be really careful. We're stupid. I was gonna say, we have to be really careful because of that was a little bit off cycle. Because I missed that other little robot guy. So you want to hit it like that, because then you can walk through. So coming up here is the second death warp and second intentional death. It's a really quick character swap. You want to grab this power thing for Jenny and then die immediately right here. And this boss kill is actually kind of annoying too, because you only have a couple pixel window to stand properly and then shoot this orb, which is again very, very hard to control, and then not get killed by that first upcoming shot. I think it's like a 3 or 4 pixel window, so it's not super tight. That's gonna kill me. But it's, okay, that's gonna kill me again. It's tight enough that it's very annoying. So the problem with the boss here on hard mode is literally the little wave cannon thing that he shoots. It'll clip Jenny's feet on the second shot if you're not in position. So, whoa, he survived. Probably 1 hit left. So entering this cutscene, we rescued everybody. That kid has a tremendously fat head. He has, I think, like one of the biggest heads in like NES gaming. It's like actually a watermelon. I think they use that as like the base of his sprite. So his head actually does cause problems later on in the speedrun. But basically the story is saying that everybody that you just captured got recaptured and kidnapped again. So they get sent to like this toad ship prison thing, and you have Blinky and Bucky only to rescue everybody again. So this is called the cell. This whole stage is actually not bad. Very luckily, the first person that you rescue from being kidnapped is actually Jenny. So she alleviates a lot of mashing. Because you can obviously use her in like every other boss fight to get rid of the bosses. So we have to wait for these lasers because that's cycle weird. And we have to wait for these lasers because I am a chicken. Oh, okay. Alright. So from here, as I said, first person that's captured in this little ship thing is Jenny. So we're going to say hi to Jenny. And Jenny coincidentally happens to be one of the worst boss fights here too. She has a lot of health. And Bucky's head can clip into the ceiling, and then Bucky can just die on this jump here. Okay, we're lucky. Bucky's incredibly big head, whoa, did not do that. Okay, I'll take that. That wasn't the best Jenny fight. If you're absolutely good with mashing, you can kill her kind of between these two bars here. But that's okay. We didn't die. So Bucky's head can clip up here in the ceiling, and then he just gets his like jump cancelled. It's like one of the only places in the game that happens. So moving on, we have like this weird combination of blocks. Thank you, Blinky. That are on a partial. I think it's like a screen cycle because you usually get the same patterns here. And I guess on that note, you can mention that there's not a lot of RNG in this game. There's only a couple of instances where it's really hard to like read specific patterns. Obviously the iceberg is one of those spots. But for the most part, the rest of this run is like actually just straight up execution. So if you die, it's because you sucked and you made a mistake. So we rescue the kid. I guess we can use this opportunity. Bucky has like this super jump thing. Obviously we've seen the orb from the girl. Blinky has like this little jetpack. The kid has a laser, and Deadeye can climb walls, which very sadly is not utilized as much in the speedrun. I would have liked like more wall climbing and stuff from the duck, but that was great. Nice rocket. So, skipping this entire screen, I would say is a little bit tricky. It's probably like one of the trickier screens in the cell. And here is the last auto-scroller that we have in Bucky, and you have, I think, a 3-pixel window here to just stand on this spot right here. So actually, Mr. Dino, if there's anything that you want to say right now, you have some time. This is about a 1.5-minute auto-scroller. And we're just stuck looking up, shooting. Did Mr. Dino abandon me? Okay, that's okay. So yeah, there's not really much to say about this screen. You're literally stuck here. The cool thing is like the pixel that you stand on allows you to not, because if you're in hard mode, you're running around, you're constantly trying to destroy like all of these like orb things that appear, and it's actually pretty bad. So this makes it very consistent up until this part. So the spikes look a little bit scary here, but they actually have a pretty lenient hitbox. You're pretty safe with running underneath them for the most part, but there's still obviously one hit KO, as is everything in hard mode, but I've always switched to Blinky and then switched back just to minimize the hitbox, obviously, and not getting stuck between a spike and getting killed. So from there, we have our final captive here. The duck, which is a very cool design. Oh, that was like literally perfect. But the duck is a very cool design. He almost doesn't get used in the speedrun at all, very sadly. Okay, so moving in, we're entering somewhere called Salvage. I guess the whole point of the story is you're trying to like escape up through the ship. So, this is a really weird stage. I would say in terms of the speedrun, in terms of hard mode, it might be one of like the easier screens, or not screens, but like the whole levels. Because there isn't a lot of stuff that can like instant death you. There is a screen coming up where you have to like escape a bunch of bugs and stuff, like this one right here, which is a little bit not good. These jumps over the bugs are pretty precise. So after that part though, I would say there's nothing really hard about this whole section. So that was like probably the hardest section of this entire stage. So getting through here, not dying, is a thing. So we want to walk right here to spawn that very far right guy that I'm going to fall right there. And then that should allow us to walk right by here without getting killed by any other bugs that spawn. This is one of the few screens that we use the duck. His name is Deadeye Duck. He's got like this tri-shot thing. And he also has the ability to like stick on walls and climb, which you'll see in the next screen coming up. But very... Ooh. See, I told you that kid's fat head would get him into trouble. If his head was smaller, that wouldn't have happened. But, like... no, for real, like, his hitbox on the head is massive, and you have to be really careful on some of these screens. Okay, so you can see the duck climb. That screen in particular, and then at the very end there's a boss. The kid's head can get trapped in pretty easily, so yeah, they had like this whole wall climbing mechanic that didn't really get utilized. Like, there's very specific screens, obviously, that clearly were supposed to be used for Deadeye, but it wasn't the case. Okay, so coming up, it's a pretty tight kill, this guy. Right as this thing dies, you want to push that ball up, and then you want to position this so it gets rid of the things, the missiles, so they don't like come back and then obviously shoot you. So that description was the best, I know. It's very hard to talk and do this at the same time. Okay, so entering here, this is probably arguably one of the hardest stages in the entire speedrun. Everything about this sucks. This jump right here might be one of the hardest jumps, just going across that pit in the speedrun. So I'm glad I got that at least first try, and it wasn't like 90th try like the iceberg. So what makes this screen or scene a little bit hard is the execution required and the cycles here. You kind of have to respect some of these like lasers and stuff. But if this screen in particular is kind of problematic in hard mode. In normal mode, it's absolutely free. You can just like basically run through all of this stuff. But in hard mode, it just happens to be one of the longest screens in the entire game. So if you die here, you're probably going to lose a minute, which in a marathon setting again is a little bit scary. So we really don't want to do that. Well, and of course we do it. All of the good things in this one. But yes, you definitely have to respect, I think, the lasers for the most part, but at the same time, pushing yourself, it's a tricky screen for sure. But I honestly think this is the second worst screen to die outside of one screen in the very final stage, in terms of how much time you can actually lose dying there. So, okay, Bucky. Okay, Bucky. Okay. Okay, there we go. We're not gonna make that mistake twice. So, sandwiched in between kind of a harder stage is this screen, which I would consider the easiest screen in the entire speedrun. All you have to do is jump over these guys. Hard mode versus casual, like normal, it's exactly the same. You just use Bucky here. I guess you could like tank on normal. I don't know if that's a thing, but... And I was gonna say, that's a pretty scary jump as well. It's very easy to die bonking his head there. Usually I'm the robot there, Blinky, but I've been trying to switch to the duck a little bit sooner on that section for that reason alone. So we missed the cycle, we have to wait a little bit like a sucker. And coming up here too is another scary jump. I buffer it so it's safe, but in Calvin's record, this is probably one of the scariest jumps in the entire game as well. So coming up here is a really weird section. You have very few seconds to kind of like jump in a very specific way to manipulate yourself to skip these like platforms and stuff. So I need to get up here and jump, and then down here I need to fall and then jump again. And then I need to switch to the boy because you have to kill both of these toads like that and then jump up. So it's a really weird section. It took me a little bit to internalize that because it's very counterintuitive how it looks. You're just like literally spinning around in a room. But it skips a lot of cycles and it's actually pretty straightforward. These guys are RNG to some extent. They like fall down from the ceiling and just like land on your head. They are easily the worst thing. So we got 2 so far that have been nice. Hopefully the third guy doesn't just drop on us, dude! I literally said! Hopefully he doesn't drop on us. Okay. But you see, this is why they're the best enemy probably in the entire game. They can just do that. Okay, that one was my fault. You're not supposed to fall off that ledge. They're the worst enemy. Easily by far they're the worst enemy. Because the way that they fall, they actually track you, so that's why I'm constantly shooting like that. Okay, so coming up here, we have kind of like this mother brain fight thing. And this whole section is on a cycle that I don't completely understand yet, even though I've run this forever. Sometimes this cycle after you destroy here can shoot low. Luckily we got a high shot, so that means we can just kill it. But standing where we were with Jenny is actually a safe spot. Or a partial safe spot anyway. Okay, so we're entering probably one of the hardest stages now. This particular screen at the very beginning, somebody said something a long time ago, and I'd be interested in what chat thinks. But these toads at the very beginning, they try to jump at you, and you're inside the ship getting ready to destroy, kind of like the ship to save the day or whatever. And somebody a long time ago said that they couldn't tell that if these toads were jumping and trying to escape, or jumping to try to like kill Willy and like Bucky and stuff. And I never looked at that the same again. Like, I actually went from like, oh yeah, these toads are being like hyper aggressive, to actually feeling sympathy for these toads. But anyway, this is the escape section, and this is probably one of, again, the hardest screens in the entire game. This screen in particular, if you die, the checkpoint is awful. You literally get sent back like over a minute. So I want to be really careful here. Whew! Okay. Getting past that little smoke thing was the checkpoint. So there's all kinds of bad in this last level. There's kind of basically a head that is, I wouldn't say RNG, but very close to RNG. It breaks apart and it can have 3 shots on screen at the same time, but based on how it's shooting, it is effectively random, which in hard mode is awful. In normal mode, it's actually a very free boss. These little ships that spawn on screen, I have to have very specific positioning to force and lure their shots, because their shots actually track you. And if they turn around and shoot, they actually shoot really fast to the point that Bucky would probably get killed. That whole section's not too bad. Upcoming here is the boss that I was just talking about. It's actually very treasure-esque, if you've ever played other treasure games. So it has 2 kind of like little barriers that you destroy here, and after you destroy these bars, it starts kind of like flailing around and spinning around. But the problem is, again, it can go high or low from this point. So after you destroy this bar here, it can bounce off the screen low or it can come high. So already you don't know what it's going to do. And then, as I said, it can have 3 shots on the screen at the same time. And after those 3 shots exit the screen, it immediately shoots again. So this boss is incredibly reactionary in how, or not dying anyway. You really don't want to get stuck in a corner with him. And he has a fair amount of health, but the problem too is if you die, it also sends you back to before the boss fight. Like, there's no pre-boss fight checkpoint or anything like that. So you really have to be like hyper vigilant. And oof, okay. So that sounds bad. So it follows up with even worse. There is a toad ship coming up, and I'm pretty sure you have like 2 pixels to do the quick kill on this ship. And if you miss it, you lose almost a minute. It's really, really bad, like this whole last section to do properly. And then after this is the final boss, which actually is free. So it's kind of weird that it was like routed that way in the speedrun. So the way that this ship works is you have turrets on the bottom here, and we want to kill 2 right off the start. Ideally, if we miss the quick kill, as long as 2 turrets are dead, then we have a high chance of surviving, but we're probably not going to kill that second turret. Nope. Okay, so that just means we need to be good and get the quick kill first try. So we really need to put like Willie's head in front of this laser. Okay. So you have to dodge. I am the greatest! Actually, I'm not. Okay, but that was the quick kill. So we at least did something right in this speedrun. It's a 2 pixel window, I'm pretty sure. Like, it's very, very easy to mess that up. It's very, very hard to get it to. And we're entering into the final boss. So this boss is pretty easy in comparison to everything else in this stage. All you have to do is switch between Bucky and Willie. So this is where we use Willie, only we died. Dude. Okay, that is like instant karma. Whatever game. Okay, so I was gonna say, easiest boss in this screen. Obviously we died, but we want to use Willie only because his laser actually does a little bit more damage than Bucky's shot. So that's why we keep switching back to Willie here. And he's gonna be dead. Timing is very close to after. Okay, can you die now? Thanks. Okay, so I'll say time. It is time. Okay. Alright, that was pretty. This is why we put a 35-minute estimate. This is an amazingly good run. But a lot can go wrong, and very simple mistakes literally means like 50 minutes or more, or 50 seconds, sorry, or more that you lose. So ideally, I would say with minimal mistakes, usually it's like a 30-minute run or less. But yeah, like so much can go wrong in hard mode. But thank you very much, Mr. Dino, for having me. Thank you, everybody in chat. This is a phenomenal speedrun game. Please consider learning it. Hard mode or normal. I would love to see that. And congratulations on your 3rd anniversary. That is very cool. But thank you very much for having me. I hope everybody enjoyed that.